I recently received an email from Buddha, and he suggested that this would be a good time to read some poems, to think about the season, to think about the year, to think about what is coming in the future. So this is Buddha's ode to COVID-19. People are always closer than they appear to be. This next poem is called Buddha's Ode to Wisdom and the Scottish Highlands, and it was sparked by a trip back in the summer of 2018 to Scotland with our granddaughter, Sylvia. Know not to know, just wander. Wonder upon wonder as you go. Humility and awe, you never know. This is Buddha's epistle for Arbor Day. Plant now. Avoid the scythe of regret later. Buddha embraces the Sabbath. And this is after the work of Abraham Heschel. Praise without petition, peace beyond armistice, harmony, inner calm. This next poem tries to compare the work that is similar yet different between the modern painter Joseph Albers and Amish quilt makers. Their work oftentimes had a very similarity in visual appearance, a plainness of a diamond in a square. Buddha's homage to Joseph Albers and Amish quilt makers. Whether paint or fabric, whether brush or needle, whether stroke or stitch, whether art or craft, whether God or godless, whether name or nameless, homage gathers, plain and simple. This is a poem called Buddha Tears Tiao Qian, who was a famous, well-known Chinese poet who lived in the 6th century. And his work very much spoke to me as a person who lived a good deal of his life as a public figure and then retired to a community of solitude. So Buddha Cheers Tao Qian. Gardening in the community of solitude, an open gate invites me to the resistance of idleness and poetry. As the years march on, one begins to think about old age. So Buddha opens the window on old age. Astronomy thins, stars dim, heavens slim. And in a related vein, this is Buddha. Buddha falters at twilight. No tree, no thee, just scree. No elegy, no me. This is the second group of poems, and the first one is called Buddha's Ode to Radiant Plainness. It finds you one less word at a time. This is a poem in a quite different vein. It's called Buddha's Prose Ode to the Ghost Dance Religion. It swept across the Great Basin and northern and southern plains, Paiute, Lakota, Cheyenne, Arapaho, moment to moment and the long haul, in this world and the next, a braid of pine nuts and dreams, and a gathering of tradition and prophecy. It held amidst dominant onslaught, but at some point it slipped away. Yet its essential message remains vibrant and alive: health, work, peace, and well-being for all, in communion with the Messiah who will help restore the earth to native hearts and hands. Take heed or take comfort, my friends. The ghost dance is coming again, down by the river of poverty, caught in the undertow of a spiritual yearning to be free. A creed of affection and affirmation, a bridge across time and history, a new unity for a new day, a unity transcending difference and despair, a pragmatic fervor. In the dance and afterwards too, renewal and redemption in a transforming presence. Buddha too has some interest in his ancestral background. So, Buddha's Ancestry.com. Life always finds its dark cousin. Families like that. This is Buddha's Hymn to Trees, after the work of Brian Doyle. Downward hunger for earth's embrace, upward yearning for its grace, seeds disperse to find their place. If that was a poem of lightness, here is a poem that is considerably more dark. This is Buddha receives a copy of the death vows circulating among young monks in Tibet. Clear a path, write a message, leave a gift, then swallow gasoline and light the match. Buddha too, of course, worries about the coronavirus, and so he got tested. And these are his reflections. I'm going in. If I got it, dark room where I'll never see you. Remember me with sage and sweetgrass. Sing a song, then scatter ashes. Forget and go on. This is a poem for my family and all my relatives. Recently, I saw both my granddaughters with their masks on, and it was quite an experience. I don't know if you'll be able to sort of see their photos in their masks. Buddha's granddaughters wear their COVID-19 masks. Of course, they're still beautiful. It takes my breath away. And this is for Sophie at age 7 and Sylvia at age 15. When I retired 2 years ago, could it really be 2 years ago? The one thing that I wanted to definitely do was to begin to learn how to weld as homage and an imitation of my father and grandfather. So, Buddha practices the craft of welding. Flip the helmet, aim the gun, join the iron, cross the sun, find history before it's done. Buddha feeds breadcrumbs to the birds. Breadcrumbs, then birds. Something finds you, nourishes, then flies away. This fall, I became aware that my 2 daughters, Kate and Hannah, had both taken up rowing in different parts of the country. Rowing not on real rivers, but rowing as a form of exercise in their apartments. And it made me think, what exactly is the connection between their efforts? So Buddha sees two sisters rowing. They row their concept 2 shells across the river and tall grass prairie, oaring their bodies, wheat from chaff, feast, then fast, while COVID lasts. This is for my daughter Kate in Chicago and my daughter Hannah in Houston as they row across the river and the tall grass prairie to reach each other. This poem is Buddha's reflection on the 100th anniversary of the armistice of World War I. Buddha crosses the Somme River on the 100th anniversary of the armistice. All the poppies grown, have Flanders flown, so many losses in fields of crosses. Dulce et decorum est, I forget the rest, unable to rejoice, ashes in my voice. The next poem is called Buddha's Ode to Kintsugi. And it's just a term or a practice that I became aware of in the last several years. And it's the practice of Japanese potters, that oftentimes when something breaks apart, our instinct is to fix it and to try to make it look like it never broke apart. But kintsugi is the practice that calls attention to the cracks when they're put back together with gold filigree. So Buddha's Ode to Kintsugi. Choose a few words, broken shards really, repair them with attention and long craft, more holy and beautiful than before they shattered. In time of this great social change and upheaval, Buddha writes a short poem on what the Constitution meant to Breonna Taylor. Not probable cause, but probable death. Equal protection of 32 bullets and lethal injection to the dream. Buddha writes a little ode for the sedge wren. O little wren, if not now, when? And a few poems from my most recent chapbook entitled Buddha, Why Buddha? These times have been tough for Buddha as well, and so sometimes Buddha is on edge. Buddha on edge. You drink tea, chant, go to the bathroom, but really, what is this shit? Buddha stands with Standing Rock, water against oil, flow against frack, prairie against core, horse against tank, song against empire, spirit against capital, vision against history, peace against war, life against death. Midaku, Oyasin, all my relatives. Buddha's Ode to Nature and Spirit. Hawk on a fence post, grace in the air, then gone, back to patience. Buddha writes an old age love poem borrowing the title of a Korean documentary film. I think there are more words in the title than in the poem itself. My love, don't cross that river. The well-known poet Emily Dickinson often wrote poems on the back of envelopes. So Buddha, in imitation, writes on an envelope about Emily Dickinson. You know what I love about sex and Emily Dickinson, the intimacy of implication, the vertical, slanting, horizontal. Just two more poems. One is a poem I wrote for my Indian law students, trying to encourage them to act and live their lives in certain ways. So Buddha sends a hunter-gatherer poem to Professor Palm's Indian law class. Cut complicity, gather reason, seek balance, show respect, find spirit, pour it all out. Hopefully true when it was written, and even truer today. And a key word in the poem words are to cut complicity, because these are the times that challenge all of us not to be complicit in all that is swirling around us. The final poem is by Joy Harjo, a member of the Creek Nation and the Poet Laureate of the United States. The poem is entitled Singing Everything. Once there were songs for everything, songs for planting, for growing, for harvesting, for eating, getting drunk, falling asleep, for sunrise, birth, mind break, and war, for death. Those are the heaviest songs, and they have to be pried from the earth with shovels of grief. Now all we hear are falling in love songs and falling apart after falling in love songs. The earth is leaning sideways, and a song is emerging from the floods and fires. Urgent tendrils lift toward the sun. You must be friends with silence to hear. The songs of the guardians of silence are the most powerful, and they are the most rare. So take care, all my friends. Reflect and go forward with peace and courage. Thank you.